Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping the week's nerdy news from Hell's Kitchen to the spice mines of Kessel and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. I'm one of your co-hosts, and with me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, we've got a busy week, Mr. Gibson. We have one busy week because
Steve,
everything seems to have happened.
There are so many weeks when you and I say, we start this podcast by saying, a lot of news this week, a lot to talk about, but holy heck, man, this week is crazy. There's even smaller stories that we would have put in. We would have put in more one-shots, but we didn't because there's so much other stuff, huge stuff to talk about. We're going to try to be as brief as possible. We're starting a little bit later than we normally do because we just recorded a separate episode, a wonderful and delightful interview with the wonderful and delightful Elise Russell, a noted comic book author. So if you haven't listened to that, you should go check that out. She was great. It was great to hear about her upcoming project Sentience and the Dark Side of Purity. Please go check those out. And so listen to that. But now we're doing our regularly scheduled program. And we're kicking things off in the Marvel Universe. And we're talking about a trailer that came out this week for the much anticipated She-Hulk. And it's not just called She-Hulk anymore. It's called She-Hulk Attorney at Law, which I enjoy very much. They had told us that this was going to be more of a like a lighter courtroom dramedy kind of thing, and that's exactly what this trailer made it look like, I think. Steve, what do you think about this trailer?
Oh, 100%. That it felt exactly like what we were hoping to get from it. That it wasn't going to take itself too seriously. It was going to be a fun, light courtroom drama. The only complaint I've heard people say anything about is the CG, and we're still way ahead of any sort of release date, so I'm not as worried about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's definitely a difference in some shots between, especially in the shots with Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, which he still is in the Professor Hulk body, I guess you could say, which is weird because the last time we saw him was at the end of Shang-Chi, and he was not in Professor Hulk. He was Banner, and he still had a sling on his arm from Endgame.
Yeah.
But in this trailer, he is Professor Hulk, and there is no sling on his arm. There's no arm issues. But even at the end of Endgame, as Hulk, he still had like a broken arm, or his arm was in like a cast or whatever.
I mean, it's not like he snapped any Infinity Gauntlet or anything, so I guess is it a timing thing? Is it he got it fixed thing? Do we even find out anything?
I don't know. I'm just curious. Maybe we don't. Maybe it doesn't matter. And you know what? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's just something that I thought about. But yeah, the CG, like, you got to think about Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. They've had like the basic whatever template for him for the last 10 years or whatever in the Marvel universe. So like that computer generated imagery of him as Hulk is great, and it's been upgraded in every movie, and they've been working on it forever. So yeah, he looks great. There's like Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, like it's a brand new thing. So yeah, the CGI maybe looks a little bit weaker. She looks maybe a little too smooth in some. That's how I heard it described. Like she looks a little smooth in some places. There are some times where I think she looks better than other times, even in this trailer.
Yeah.
So that tells me, like what you were saying, that they may be still working on it, and this might be like, okay, this is good enough for a trailer, but 6 months from now or 8 months from now, whenever this comes out, it'll be improved.
August is 3 months from now, sir.
August? This comes out in August?
Did you miss that? Did you miss this is dropping August 17th?
Dude,
it's not like there's anything else going on.
Things. Yeah, I know. I just didn't remember. So okay, never mind. I guess we'll see if they make it different. I mean, it doesn't look bad. I don't think it looks bad.
No,
it just looks,
it's
black.
Like you said, it's exacerbated by the fact that you have Mark Ruffalo's Hulk right next to her, and you can just see the drastic difference in how one looks versus the other.
And it also Sorry, you can finish what you're saying.
I was just gonna say again, it doesn't feel bad. It just feels different, similar. It's not like the Moon Knight log scene where you can tell, well, we cut something on
Yeah,
that. It's like
very
we haven't quite
green
dialed
screen.
it in yet.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I was getting from it.
Yeah, and like the smoothness or whatever. I don't know. Like the only other thing, I don't know if you read this online. I saw a tweet or something from a effects artist that worked on She-Hulk, and they came out and said that one of the higher ups at Marvel mandated that She-Hulk that they make her smaller. Like people were complaining like, "Oh, why isn't She-Hulk like why isn't she ripped? Why isn't she muscular? Why isn't she like bigger? Like
Right.
she should be like she should look stronger like she does in the books a lot of times. She looks like not like massive like the Hulk, but she's got biceps and she's got muscles and she's,
Right. She
looks
doesn't
great.
she doesn't
She
grow to
looks-
17 times her size or whatever, but she looks like Arnold.
Yeah. Exactly. But like in the trailer, she just kind of looks like she looks green and she looks bigger, but she
Right.
looks small and slender and, she doesn't have like rippling muscles or anything. And people were complaining about that online. And then I saw this VXF person come out and say, yeah, they made her look smaller, make her look smaller. So maybe that was also like, yeah, make her look smooth. She can't, she has to look pretty or whatever. You can't make her look gritty like Ruffalo or whatever. But like, I don't know. That's theorizing. Like I know the making her smaller thing is real, and that I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I would love her to be like more ripped or whatever.
I mean, she always has in the books. So what's the
exactly.
difference translating it?
Who
but
knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. Very excited to see Emil Blonsky in this trailer.
Yeah.
I am a fan of the Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton. It is canon to the MCU, even though no one ever talks about it. I like that he's coming back. I feel like this show in general, because it's a law show, because it's a Hulk show, I'm excited that it's just a Hulk focused thing. Because I like the Incredible Hulk, I like She-Hulk, I like the Hulk world. So I'm excited they can do a Hulk focused thing without having it to giving Universal credit, which is why we haven't gotten a solo Hulk movie, because Universal still technically owns.
Right.
They would have to split costs with any movie that is Hulk as the main character. That's why he can be in the Avengers movies. He can be in Thor Ragnarok as a side character. And I guess She-Hulk must be a loophole that they can do She-Hulk and have him be in it, but it's not like called the Incredible Hulk.
Right. It was probably something similar to the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch not being able to be named type thing.
Right.
But yeah, it's I don't know. There seems to be a lot of promise from what we saw in the trailer. It seems to fit well. It seems like Tatiana Maslany is going to nail Jennifer Walters as a character. And it's going to have a different feel to it, which has been what Phase 4 has been for a lot of these properties, and something that I've greatly enjoyed. Whether it's literally any of them. I mean, the different feel we got from Moon Knight, the real different feel we got from Multiverse of Madness, WandaVision, Loki.
Yeah.
Like they're not hitting what you and I've complained about in the the Marvel formula as much.
Right.
So
yeah.
I mean, this is from everything I've heard, Phase Wong, because Benedict Wong is confirmed to be back as Wong in this.
Yep.
So let's keep it up, and I am now officially Team Phase Wong, because anything he's been in has been great.
I agree. I started a thought, and then my thought tangented, and we went on a little tangent there. But like
we
what
never
I was
do
trying
that.
to say,
we never do that.
We never is that because it's a Hulk show, because it's a lawyer show. I'm thinking. I mean, I don't want to go like all Mephisto here, but I feel like there's possibilities for other cameos, including, and this would be big, but is it possible that we get Liv Tyler back as Betty Ross?
Hypothetically.
Possibly.
And
right?
I mean, Marvel will drop the bag. Like, it's not going to be a getting Liv Tyler issue. So.
Right. Oh, yeah.
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 There's a good chance.
But then thinking about something else we're about to talk about, and how it's a lawyer show.
And how there's a lot of history there.
Is it possible we see Matt Murdock or even Jessica Jones? Because there's history with She-Hulk and Jessica Jones. That would be great. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say, but I feel like it's possible.
Well, She-Hulk attorney at law, Matt Murdock avocado at law. I mean, there's a tie, I'm sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
You see Jessica Jones working for other lawyers and law firms in her
Yeah.
series. You see Foggy Nelson working for different law firms or whatever. I mean, there's just
Yeah. No,
many possibilities.
I think there's a good chance, especially with the news that came out this week.
Yes, which is something that has been theorized for quite some time. We talked about it a while ago, but now officially a Daredevil revival is in the works. It has been officially announced in the way that writers have been hired to work on an official Daredevil revival, meaning a revival of the Netflix Daredevil series in a way, kind of, I guess, in as much that it will likely star Charlie Cox, since he has been reintroduced to the MCU proper as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home. And if you watched Hawkeye, spoiler, you know that Vincent D'Onofrio has returned as Kingpin. So Marvel has hired writers Matt Corman and Chris Ord, who have written a show called Covert Affairs for USA. I didn't know USA was even still a channel.
Nope.
I've never heard of that show.
I watched a
that'd be
soccer
good enough.
game on it a couple weeks ago. That's the only reason I knew it still existed.
So you know it still works.
Yep.
So I mean, Marvel wouldn't have hired him if they didn't believe their pitch or believe their talent. So you got to trust them there. And this is, I saw people online complaining that it wasn't the same like creative team as the original Daredevil. Guess what? All 3 seasons of Daredevil had different showrunners and different writers. And it's honestly a miracle that all 3 seasons were great. When you change that much behind the camera, and they were able to execute 3 amazing seasons of a show, then that's saying a lot. So hopefully this can continue. However, this is how I'm gonna look at it, and I advise anyone listening to this that considers themselves a nerd, that loved the Marvel Netflix shows, that loved Daredevil, that loved Jessica Jones, that loved Luke Cage, Punisher. Even I'm sure there's maybe 1 or 2 people out there that loved Iron Fist. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, guys, girls, theys and thems, you got to lower your expectations when it comes to these characters being revived for Disney Plus. These are not going to be R-rated shows.
Yeah.
These are going to be MCU versions of the Netflix shows that were hard R-rated shows. So tell yourself that right now. Rewatch the version of Kingpin that we got at the end of Hawkeye and readjust your expectations around that, because that was definitely a toned down version of that character than we had seen in the Daredevil shows. And look at the tone of any MCU movie. Look at the tone of any Disney Plus series that they've done so far. And then go watch any of those Netflix shows, including Iron Fist, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The tone is elevated, darker, R-rated again. So if you are expecting a season 4 of the Netflix Daredevil show, adjust your expectations. That's not what you're going to get. You are going to get Charlie Cox. You are probably going to get the guy that played Foggy, whose name I don't know, and Deborah Ann Woll as Karen Page. You're most likely going to get Vincent D'Onofrio back, but it's going to be the new MCU versions of these characters, so adjust your expectations accordingly. So, yes, we saved Daredevil. Hooray, we did it. Is it going to be the same show? No, it's not going to be the same show.
Right.
That's all I got to say.
Now, we also have, apparently via the socials, seen Kristen Ritter and Mike Coulter hanging out, so who knows what's going on there, too. Whether that's part of the Daredevil revival or where there's more to it or what's going on, but...
I don't know. They posted a picture of themselves together on the same day that this news broke that writers had been hired to do a Daredevil reboot. And I don't remember exactly what the caption was. Both of them post the same picture on their Instagram feeds. Kristen Ritter, who played Jessica Jones, Michael Coulter, who played Luke Cage. Same picture of them, looked like they were just on vacation together.
Yeah, it looked like they were just hanging out.
They certainly weren't dressed like Jessica and Luke, so, I mean, who knows? But I think the caption was something like, Jessica Jones plus Luke Cage equals big T's, or something like that.
Yeah.
Hashtag Defenders, hashtag Luke Cage, hashtag Jessica Jones. So, okay, they're either just screwing with all of us and having fun, or they know something. And, I mean, I can't imagine that they wouldn't have extended offers to those two, at least those two characters. Because I get, there was a negative reaction to Iron Fist, so maybe they're not going to bring Iron Fist back because of that negative reaction. I get that Punisher, wow.
Doesn't really fit in a Disney Plus environment.
Exactly. Like, how do you tone down Punisher? I don't know if it's possible. Two, there's a lot of like political shit going on with Punisher that they may not want to dip their toe into, or they're going to take their time to figure out the right way to do it for them. But that, more than any other show, is not coming back. We are not going to get. I feel like it's more likely we will see him as the Punisher in other things or other shows. I don't think we're going to get season 3 of the Punisher. Anyway.
No, I was going to say you might catch a cameo of John Bernthal somewhere, embodying that character. But I'm with you. I don't think they're going to bring him back to the limelight. Right. He could definitely fit into plenty of storylines, but I don't think he's gonna be the feature anymore of anything.
Yeah. But considering the importance of Luke Cage as a character as he relates to just Marvel or even the Avengers in general, I can't imagine they wouldn't. Since they're already bringing back Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio officially, crazy that they wouldn't bring back Michael Coulter as Luke Cage. Crazy that they wouldn't bring back Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones because that show was very popular, and also like Gail Simone is writing a new Jessica Jones series. Like I feel like they are trying to keep Jessica Jones in our memories. They're not letting her fade away. And the two of them were canonically married. They have a kid, I think, in the books.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
If you're bringing back one, you might why not lean into that relationship a little bit? So
yeah, and Simone's new run is going to be called Variants. So check that out. It's already on my pull list. I think it's starting up in July.
Yeah, it's Jessica Jones meeting other versions of herself from the Marvel Universe. So that'll be very interesting. So anyway, so that's Daredevil news. Very exciting, but again, adjust those expectations. Staying in the Marvel Universe.
And staying with other versions of themselves.
Yeah, man. I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't know. I'm not wild about it. Marvel Studios has signed a deal for Stan Lee's likeness rights. Stan Lee being the co-creator of 80% of the MCU characters that you know and love, from Iron Man to Black Panther to Black Widow to... Did he do Black Widow?
I don't know about that. But
that's somebody else. Maybe not Black Widow. But the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, all these other characters that you love. And cameoed in all those movies. Sadly, obviously passed away. They have inked a deal with Stan Lee's estate that will enable Marvel to use Stan Lee's face on merchandise, advertising, signage, and also grant them the ability to recreate him digitally should they wish to do so. Which means we could get some digital from beyond the grave cameos of Stan Lee in future MCU projects, a la Grand Moff Tarkin or Princess Leia in Rogue One. I really don't want them to do that. I really don't.
No, and you mentioned Tarkin and Leia. I really like how they did those, but to bring back Lee, there's nothing they're going to bring him back for other than a cameo like he had been doing in the MCU, right?
Yes, because it also said something about the article I read. Also said something about like archive recordings, like vocal recordings and stuff. Which means let's make him say it. Right? Terrifying. So I think the slight difference. One, I think the Peter Cushing thing in Rogue One, I think they did it too much. I really like that movie.
Yeah.
I thought they leaned into it too much. They could have done it. Could have scaled it back and been a little bit. I understand you want to put Leia at the end because saying the word hope or whatever, I get that.
And simple,
and at that point,
effective.
Carrie Fisher was and Carrie Fisher was still alive when they did that too. So that's she signed off on that.
Right.
Which is a little bit why I'm more. Some people are really put off by what they're doing in Mandalorian with Luke Skywalker, and
it was Mark Hamill's mocap.
Yes, exactly. I'm okay with it because one, I love Luke Skywalker, and two, Mark Hamill is involved in that and is okay with it. So that makes it okay for me. I understand some people think it's creepy and ghostly and terrible, and I get that too. very valid.
Right.
The Peter Cushing thing, I think they leaned into a little bit more, but all these that we're talking about, these are characters that were played by actors, and they want those characters to come back, and they want those characters to look like the characters that they are supposed to look like, right?
Right.
This would be bringing back a human being as they are. This is not like Stan Lee. Not like he played Batman or something, and they want Stan Lee's Batman to come back. That's a weird thing that I just said. But they're bringing back a human being. They're literally bringing back a ghost. They're reanimating a ghost of somebody, or they would be. I'm not saying they're going to do this, but
It's a Tupac concert.
Yes,
the holograms
like
they were doing there for a bit with him and Michael Jackson, and
I totally understand them wanting to put Stan Lee's face on a T-shirt or something, or a billboard or whatever. Like, sure, I'm way more okay with that, even if it's like a sign in a Marvel movie or something.
Right.
That
Give me
makes
a
sense to
billboard that just says Excelsior on it or something. But when you get into building deepfakes and Uncanny Valley type stuff, it's just like, especially like you said, for an actual person. If it was a character, it's one thing. If it's like Tarkin, everything was Peter Cushing's likeness used for the character. It was just everything tying into that. It had nothing to do with, we're going to recreate Peter Cushing. We're recreating Tarkin. That's it.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I don't know, my two favorite Stan Lee cameos are not even MCU movies. My two favorite Stan Lee cameos are Into the Spider-Verse. And so I can see, because he owned a store in Into the Spider-Verse, right? So I can see, in Across the Spider-Verse, there's a billboard for that store with his face on it. Great.
Right.
Makes total sense.
And again, animation. Even if you recreated him in that sense, animation and find a voice actor that can do a Stan Lee voice. Sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're pulling his old recordings and you're, mocapping his face, it's, I don't know. It just seems a little much for me.
Do you have a favorite Stan Lee cameo in all of the movies?
No, not really.
No?
Not that jumps at me.
Yeah.
A couple of them came through my head and I'm like, it was good, but it wasn't, no. So I will plead the fifth on this one.
Yeah. I gotta say, so Into the Spider-Verse and my other one is going to surprise you because I know it's a movie you haven't seen. Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Really?
Which is not a Marvel movie.
Huh.
It is
okay.
Hilarious.
Nice.
I mean, all day I'll sing the praises of Teen Titans Go to the Movies. It is so funny. It is laugh out loud funny. I don't care if you're a DC fan or not or whatever. It's so funny. And Stan Lee has 2 cameos in it. Very funny, both of them.
So I've never seen the movie, but I listened to Syracuse native Superpod Hero Cast do their recap of it.
Oh, really?
And it was it made me want to watch it. I just haven't gotten around. I was I gotta put this on the list. Apparently it's a lot of fun.
You will laugh out loud. Guaranteed.
Nice.
Guaranteed you will laugh out loud. You do not have to have seen one episode of Teen Titans Go to think it's funny. You will think it's funny. But, all right, speaking of DC, what a great segue, because we're going to talk about some DC stuff right now. Not some... I got mixed feelings about this all over the place. So we recently talked about how there was a DC merger. Warner Brothers merged with Discovery, and there's going to be a new CEO, and he was going to really focus on the DC properties and going to figure out how they should align better and what they should be doing to blah, 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 corporate speak. Anyway, we have the first casualty of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger in that Warner Brothers has canceled the Wonder Twins movie. Oh, I will pause for you to scream into the ether and collect yourselves.
I mean, when you look at it, what they said was not inaccurate.
It's not inaccurate. But okay, well, let's get into it. Okay, so the new CEO, David Zaslav, said that DC movies should all be shooting for being theatrical releases. This was going to be a HBO Max exclusive film. Mm-hmm. They were going to start in July. We were less than 2 months away from the beginning of filming. They had cast the movie. It was written. Like, they were ready to go. Cancel it. It's being reported that he thought the movie was, quote, too niche and also too expensive. And the new mandate from Warner Brothers Discovery is that all HBO Max only releases, so like exclusive, strictly HBO Max releases, should be capped at $35 million. So no show or movie. I mean, I don't know if that's just for movies or whatever. Nothing more than 35 million.
Right.
It can't be, because they're making Game of Thrones and they're spending way more than 35 million on. Like,
right. Yeah, that's got to be.
So it must be like movies,
just movies,
like exclusive movies. So I understand. Like, yes, is it too niche? Yes, it's very niche. But also, when we talked about this merger, and they said how they were focused on the DC stuff, he said specifically that he wanted to build up lesser known characters of the DC universe. I don't know. They're Wonder Twins, pretty lesser known characters. They're least known characters. So, I don't know if he's talking too niche. Like, yes. Is it niche? Yes, but it's outside of Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, which is what seemingly you're trying to get away from. You're trying to build up your catalog of other heroes, right? So, whatever. And I certainly understand. Yeah, you want to shoot for theatrical releases. Yes, do that. Great. Love it, because that's more prestigious, or a lot of people see it as more prestigious. You want to be getting more money at the box office. You want to be competing with Marvel. I feel like DC Warner Brothers is finally, I feel like, at a place where they can really start going toe-to-toe with the MCU, or like putting up stuff that is just as good or is just as well received as the MCU. We're finally in a good position. It's been years of like good forward momentum, right? And like shit going on with the Flash, that's a different story.
Right.
We'll talk about that another time.
We'll see where the forward momentum goes, but at this point, it's still chugging along.
But who knows? That movie still has to come out. That movie could make $1 billion. Like, who knows? So, and I don't know. I was, at the same time, so I'm excited about, like, yes, they're pushing more theatrical releases. Because, like, we're talking about Batgirl. Like, yes, Batgirl should be a theatrical release at this point, and I feel like it probably should. But they've also announced a ton of other HBO Max exclusive stuff for DC, and now I am starting to get worried that some of that stuff is going to get canceled. Instead of getting pushed to theatrical. They've announced a Black Widow series. They've announced a Zatanna series, or was that a movie? I don't know.
They've announced,
what's that?
Black Widow. You said Black Widow. Yeah.
Did I say Black Widow?
Yeah.
What did I mean? What did I mean? Black Canary.
There you go.
That's what I meant. Did I say Black Widow? Very sorry.
I got really confused. I was like, I didn't hear that.
Why did Warner Brothers announce DC announced a Black Widow series? That'd be crazy. Huh. What would it take for Marvel to sell one of their characters to DC, or vice versa?
Are there enough zeros, especially a high-profile one? Yeah,
that'd be insane. I kind of want that to happen though. I'm like, you know what? We're done with Superman. Marvel, you can take Superman. Yeah. See what you can do with Superman.
Or just do a trade. Like it's like sports leagues.
Trade.
Trade between the teams. Like, all right, we'll give you Cap and a 3-year option on Iron Man for Superman, and throw in Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God. Yeah. You get Marvel. You get Harley Quinn for a year.
Right.
See what you can do. You guys get Black Widow for a year. See what you could. That'd be insane.
Yeah, put each other's creative teams on it and just see where it goes. Why not?
I actually kind of like that idea. I like that idea of it being a temporary, like, do with this, like
a loan, just loan them.
Like, not even for a year. Like, we're trading for, you get a 6-issue miniseries,
right?
And we're trading, and all of a sudden, Black Widow is in the DC universe and Harley Quinn is in the Marvel universe. You don't have to explain how it happened. That's just what it is. Write your 6-issue miniseries, and then they're going back.
Yeah, just
incredible.
Create your new Earth. This is where the drop-ins happen. Problem solved.
That is a great idea, and I would love that. And it's never
gonna happen.
Anyway, I'm worried about Black Canary. I'm worried about Zatanna. I'm worried about all the Justice League Dark stuff and Constantine and the Michael B. Jordan Superman stuff that we've heard about. Like, is all that too niche? Is all that going to get canceled? Is all that too expensive? Like, you got to be spending money to make these things look good and be written well and produced well. And I don't know, or just make them all go to theatrical, I guess. But
Right.
I don't know.
I guess you have to, if you pivot to what they said, you've either got to drop the quality of your movies, either drop or increase the budget of your movies, or kick some of the movies to series, and then it's not the same storytelling medium. There's a lot of differences between the two, so it's who knows where it's going to go. I don't know. Much like the Lee news, I don't know how much I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see moving forward.
If you told me, if I was the new CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, and you showed me all of the DC stuff that was on the table for HBO Max, and you told me that I had to cancel one of them, I'd probably cancel Wonder Twins. So I get that, but I'm just nervous that this is the first domino to fall in a series of cancellations of things that I was very excited about and that I thought made a lot of sense moving forward for DC. Yeah. And like, how does this affect like James Gunn's Amanda Waller series or Peacemaker season 2? Like, is this gonna, what things do they already have in development that are now like, okay, that Arkham Asylum series you're doing for the Batman, we're gonna, cut your budget by however many $1 million, $30 million or something, So I don't know. I get it, and I also am scared of it at the same time. So I guess there's not much else to say other than we will see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. It's been a little over a half hour that we've been talking about other stuff, and we're going to spend most of the next half hour talking about Star Wars. You ready?
I am. There's a lot to talk about, sir.
People listening, people watching, buckle up.
Yeah. If you enjoy A Galaxy Far, Far Away, just saddle up because you're in for a ride.
You are in for a ride. And I say we're going to spend the next half hour talking about Star Wars. This may be our first 2-hour episode, my friend. I don't know. When you and me start talking about Star Wars, it's hard to stop sometimes. So I guess I'm just prefacing that right now. I mean, people listening to this in podcast form the next day, you already know how long this episode is, so you tell us. I don't know.
Did we make it?
Come back and tell me right now. Tell me right now via time travel how long this episode is.
Mind you, this is all before the drop of Obi Wan Kenobi. That doesn't happen until next week. Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that we recorded a separate episode with Elise Russell, which you should listen to. Again, reminder. She was originally going to be folded into this episode when I thought that this Star Wars news was the only thing that was going to happen. And then we got a She-Hulk trailer, and then we got the news about Daredevil, and then we got the news about Wonder Twins, and then we got all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, she's going to be your separate episode so we can like focus on talking to her and not just squeeze her into all this stuff. News just kept coming. But this was a big drop. This was a Vanity Fair article came out this week in promotion of Obi Wan, you could say, but also served as a reminder of all of the things that Lucasfilm is currently developing for Disney Plus. Mostly, it focused on all the Disney Plus series that are currently in development. And we're going to work our way through everything. And again, it's a lot, so buckle up. Here we go. Punch it, Chewie. We're going to start off with Obi Wan, a show that we are going to be seeing soon, right? This week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
2 episodes.
Launches on Friday.
God, I'm so excited. I just got really excited for it. Okay. Let's go. Obi Wan. They have hello there. We have confirmed that Obi Wan Kenobi series was originally going to be a movie. That was a huge rumor for a long time after, like, between Last Jedi and Solo, when they were still making, like, Rogue One and Solo are Star Wars stories, right? They're going to be like individual one-shot story movies. And it was heavily rumored that one of those was going to be an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie starring Ewan McGregor.
Right.
Lo and behold, that was true, and they abandoned it after no one went to see Solo. Why didn't anyone go to see Solo? Because Lucasfilm marketed it terribly
Mm-hmm.
and didn't give it enough time for the filmmakers to make it a good movie. We'll come back to that point a little later in the podcast. Anyway, no one went to see Solo, even though it's great. And so they decided to scrap all of their plans for Star Wars stories moving forward, which I think was a mistake.
Concur.
I think they should have kept going with those, and I hope that they do. So Obi Wan was going to be a movie, and it now has become a television show, as we know. So originally, now we know that Darth Vader is returning to this show.
Hayden Christensen
Originally-
at his finest.
Hayden Christensen, hopefully at his finest. We haven't seen it yet. May
Yeah.
not be quite his finest, but I mean, you got to bring your finest if you're coming back as Darth Vader. Bring your A
And
game.
per friend of the show, Matt Beseda, he believes he looks old, which I don't know if you understand this, Matt. We all got old. It's been a long time.
It's been like 15, 20 years. So people get old.
I think we all look a lot older than we did 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. So anyway, Vader was not going to return initially, and I don't know if they mean like I don't know about the movie, what they had planned for the movie, but when the show was conceived, Vader was not going to be a part of it, and I think the original creator or showrunner left and was replaced with current director showrunner Deborah Chow. She really pushed for the fact that Vader should be in this movie, and the pause in production that we heard about. I think they were ready to shoot, and then they paused production because they had to rewrite a bunch of stuff, and people were nervous that meant it was bad and wasn't going to be good. They had to do a lot of rewriting of the story. Apparently, that pause in production was to do rewrites so that they could include Vader in the show. Quote from Deborah Chow says, "For me, across the prequels through the original trilogy, there is a love story dynamic with those two that goes through the whole thing. I felt like it was quite hard not to include the person who left Kenobi in such anguish in the series. I don't know how you couldn't. I don't think he ever will not care about him. What's special about that relationship is that they loved each other," which I think is great insight. And I agree, like, I know some people wanted Darth Maul to be in this movie, but like they already did that in Rebels. Like that's already canon. That Rebels is canon. Like what happened in Rebels happened, so they're not going to show us again in a movie. And without that, who else are you gonna like? It's just gonna be an Inquisitor? Like, yo, bring in Vader. Like to me, it's obvious. And there's a couple times in this article. Again, if you haven't read the Vanity Fair article, it is a great read. If you're into Star Wars, it's very great read. We're just kind of hitting the high points here, but there's a lot of cool stuff that they talked about. Something that they mentioned in that article is that how it's not it. I don't know. For me, this is an obvious decision. Bring Vader back, yes, but apparently for like the people in charge at Lucasfilm, they take everything very seriously, and it was a thought process on is this the right move. Like they don't make anything. They don't make any decisions too hastily, which could come as a shock to a lot of people. But according to this article, they really take their time to think about, should we bring this character back? They also mentioned it when they were talking about Mandalorian and the introduction of Baby Yoda. That was Jon Favreau's idea. Like, I want to do a child version of Yoda's species. And they were like, whoa, we don't know if you can do that. Yoda's its own thing, is his own thing. What we need to think about.
They made Yaddle, man. They made Yaddle. They went down the rabbit hole themselves.
Yeah, you're right. But I thought that was interesting that they claimed, at least, to be like, really, we need to think about this. This is like a big decision.
So they're now the Ents from Lord of the Rings. Don't be hasty. Just, go at a tree's pace, and here we are.
Although, I mean, sometimes it seems like they really love being hasty. Look at
some
things.
comment.
This is It's really...
No.
Trying not to derail. We got a lot to get through here. So
also,
anyway.
aside from what was referenced, I do have to get in a plug for, if you have not seen Rebels and not seen Twin Suns, like Twin Suns is the episode Mike was referring to.
Episode of Rebels.
Go back and watch it. If you have trouble with it, get through season 1. It turns into some of the best Star Wars you will ever see.
Oh, I think Rebels is an incredible series, really, pretty much from start to finish. Clone Wars as well. If you haven't seen Clone Wars, watch that. I mean, there's
especially
things
the
online.
highs. There's guides
to like watch the good episodes or whatever and skip the lower ones. But
That
Clone
was
Wars really,
that was Filoni finding his feet. He really hit his
Yeah.
stride in Rebels.
Clone Wars feeds Rebels a lot, so
Mhm.
big recommendation for those two things. And we will find out more about the fate of Obi Wan and Vader this Friday as we see Obi Wan Kenobi. Got some news on Andor, the Andor series starring the character of Cassian Andor. Diego Luna returning as Cassian Andor, his character from Rogue One. We got an announcement that is coming in August, late August of 2022. Seemingly, now that I know that She-Hulk is coming out in August, it must be after She-Hulk is over.
I don't know if She-Hulk's coming out on August 17th. They're gonna have to run concurrently. So that's weird.
It's gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen sooner or later. They like to alternate, but if they're putting out so much content, at some point it's gonna overlap. So late August of 2022, Diego Luna returning as Cassian Andor from Rogue One. This show is a story of how he became basically the character that we see in Rogue One. Like, he's jaded but still dedicated to the cause. It's kind of it starts with the destruction of his own home planet. And Diego Luna said about the character, it's the journey of a migrant. This feeling of having to move is behind this story, very profoundly and very strong, that shapes you as a person. It defines you in many ways and what you are willing to do. Showrunner Tony Gilroy, who helped and is rumored to have saved Rogue One, the third act of Rogue One, he is the showrunner of Andor, which makes me very excited. In this article, he is referred to Andor as having a first season, this first season, he says a number of times, which leads me to believe there are plans to go on if it is successful. So I feel like this show may not go right up to, the beginning of Rogue One. We may not find Cassian Andor where we meet him in Rogue One.
Right, in this season.
They're going to leave room for some more, which I think is very smart of them to do.
Absolutely. There's a time and a place for a nice mini series, but if there's more story to tell, there's no reason to rush it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm really excited about this show. I really like Cassian Andor as a character in Rogue One, and I want to know more about him. And I think K2SO, his droid, is supposed to come back in this series as well, and I like him a lot too. I don't know. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, no, it's going to, I think, fill a niche that you see stuff like this where people are hesitant on prequels and have been burnt on stuff that ends where the story is going to continue from, so pieces of the ending. In this case, it's kind of yes, Andor will stay alive, but if this is the character building epic that they're talking about, then I think it should probably be a good stopgap in between, and a good way to show us how he came to befriend or be in possession of K2SO, however it ends up working. I think it fits into a timeline of where we want to see things, and also getting Alan Tudyk back is always a plus too.
Of course. They also confirmed that the character of Mon Mothma will be a big character in.
Oh, really?
Andor, which I think is cool too. Same actress that played her in Rogue One and Revenge of the Sith, coming back to play her again.
What was that, Genevieve O'Reilly or something? I don't know why that name sounds familiar.
Looks strikingly familiar to the woman that played her in Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Which is why she was cast, obviously. So I'm all for more Mon Mothma and Andor. Also got some tidbits about Ahsoka, supposed to be debuting in 2023. No more firm date than that. I got a quote from Dave Filoni saying that Ahsoka is a continuous story. It is definitely driving towards a goal, in my mind, as opposed to being little singular adventures. That's what I want the character to be doing, and I think that's what fans want now. They have such a relationship with her. I've only recently started to understand that all those kids that watched Clone Wars are now a lot older. They're very excited about all the things they grew up with, as they should be. So this quote, for me, tells me that this is going to be less episodic and more of like a driving narrative. Because Because even like Mandalorian, especially season 1 until the end, a lot of Mandalorian was like, this episode we're on this planet and we have to do this thing.
Right.
And the next episode we're on this planet and we have to do this thing. And a little bit of Steven 2. Who's Steven 2? Season 2 was a little less like that. There had a little more of like an overarching story, but was still more episodic. And Book of Boba Fett, I feel like, was certainly that way, especially when they introduced Mandalorian episodes that were just had nothing to do with the main character at all. So I feel like this is going to be kind of like more of a driving narrative. And they didn't really confirm this, but they did reference the fact that everyone is assuming that the plot of Ahsoka, based on the ending of Star Wars Rebels and what she says in her first episode of Mandalorian, that it's going to be her going after Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn. They didn't necessarily confirm that, but they did, like I said, they mentioned it, that was what fans are assuming, and no one denied it necessarily. So
when you leave that big whale-sized cliffhanger at the end of Rebels, the fans are going to come for that.
Space whale-sized? Space whale-sized.
You could say it was a Purgill-sized. And yes, Mike, I do know the name of the space whales.
Of course you do. Of course you do. You know everything.
Yeah, it's where we thought it was going to be. I'm glad that it is the story-based. I had a random thought about Book of Boba Fett while you were saying that. If they had switched it to, instead of, I'd assume it was Rodriguez that made the decision to switch it to flashbacks and modern day in the same episodes.
Yeah.
If they had switched it to Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc pit, Boba Fett shows up in Mos Espa, Boba Fett does X, like a continual series instead of continually flashing back and fast forwarding.
Yeah.
Would that have changed the feel of the show? Would that have improved it?
I don't know that.
I don't know about the awkward inflection at the end of that statement I just made.
But I do feel like it was a little disjointed. Because I remember times like in early episodes being like, okay, yeah, I like the Tusken Raider Sand People stuff, but I want to know what he's doing now. Like, move this forward a little bit. You know? Like, there was like over 2 episodes of him with the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is cool, but I feel like you could have condensed this. Like, I need a story that's moving forward, and he's not moving forward. He's like, learn how to fight with a stick, which is fine and it's cool and I like it, but give me this meditative stuff for a little bit, and then you got to start giving me some plot, man. You got to start moving some stuff forward. Give me some narrative. So yeah, maybe.
I mean, you rehash that show? You start with him in the back to tank. You do the old Tusken stuff like we saw. You consolidate all the Tusken stuff or most of it into one episode. Give another flash forward to something happening at modern times, finish it up in the second episode, and then start into the story. And I feel like that might give it a little better feel, but I don't know. Maybe. I am not a showrunner. I am just a nerd talking about nerd things.
Yeah.
Every week.
We're Monday morning quarterbacking Book of Boba Fett from 3 months ago.
From 3 months ago, from Robert Rodriguez, who is shown in other things that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So another show that I had actually forgotten about until I read this article that I'm very, very excited about. I feel like in general, Star Wars, because we haven't gotten a movie in a while, and it seems like, according to this article, we're not going to get a movie for a while. It's going to be mostly like TV show stuff, which is fine because I like a lot of it. I like Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett was fine. Like, I'm not going to watch it. But in a lot of the stuff that they're doing now, even with like Clone Wars and Rebels, they're like plugging holes. That's like the main focus, it feels like. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's tell people what happened. Like Clone Wars is all, let's tell people what happened between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Rebels is like, oh, let's connect the prequels to the original trilogy. And even Rogue One, like, oh, wait, let's fill in this little story. Solo is like, oh, let's tell all these little stories in between. Book of Boba Fett. What happened to Boba Fett in between? Mandalorian is the only one that's like, not. I mean, it is a little. Mandalorian is and isn't at the same time. Mandalorian is giving us new stuff in a familiar time period, but is also starting to, with all the like the Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka stuff that they're doing, is kind of like plugging the gap between the main original trilogy and the sequels, right?
Yep.
We're like seeing Luke starting to build a Jedi temple and stuff. They're doing all this like gap filling, which we don't really need. A lot of Star Wars fans, including myself, and I don't know, I love all that stuff. Like, I'll watch it, fine. I'm also kind of craving something brand new, something that I haven't seen before, something that's not connected to anything else. And we're getting a show called The Acolyte, which was announced over a year ago. We've talked about it before on this podcast, but it's been so like radio silence on it because they're working on it. It's not on the schedule anytime soon. I just forgot that it existed. So The Acolyte is currently in the casting phase. Most of the writing is already complete for it. It's reporting. I think we talked about when they were cast. Amandla Sternberg. They were cast as the lead. We don't know anything about the character that they're playing, but that's still rumored that they're going to be the lead in the show. Showrunner Leslie Headland, who is one of the co-creators and directors of a show on Netflix that I love called Russian Doll. Steve, have you watched Russian Doll?
I have not, but it's on the definitively on the list from a couple of different people. So cool. My wife and I finished it last night. Nice.
Season 2, and it was like a show where like season 1 was great, and we're like, what are they possibly gonna do with season 2? And they did something very interesting and cool. It's like it's like hard sci-fi, but the main character is someone that you would never write or cast in a sci-fi anything ever. It's great. Like, it's cool to see someone that's just like, like, I don't know. Like, the character is at odds with the genre in a way that is delightful. So, huge recommendation, and makes me excited for The Acolyte because I love that show, and she's doing this show too. Leslie Headland reports that the show is a mystery thriller that takes place 100 years before Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Yep.
In the High Republic era. So this is something we've never seen before, an era we've never seen on film before. It's in comics, it's in novels currently right now. They're really exploring the High Republic era, probably in a lead up to like show so things like this can exist and fans can have like a base knowledge of it. A quote from Headland said, "We're taking a look at the political and personal and spiritual things that came up in a time period that we don't know much about. My question when watching The Phantom Menace was always like, well, how did things get to this point? How did we get to a point where a Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? Like, what went wrong? What are the scenarios that led us to this moment?" And Steve, I also want to know those questions because that is something that really bothers me about the prequels and why I really dislike those movies. Sorry,
That's
people.
The reason.
It's
among
one
many.
Of them, Steve. It's one of them. Because here's the thing. I'm gonna fine.
Gloves are coming off. Gloves are coming off.
Gloves are off. Gloves are off. The only time people ever like leave us comments is when I shit on the prequels. So here we go. Leave those comments, people. I don't know. Me personally, when I watched the original trilogy, I watched those 3 movies a million times growing up before the prequels came out. To me, the Jedi were like these mythical, powerful beings that there were never like a lot of them. They were like a mystery and blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the prequels and they're like, oh, there's millions of Jedi. They're just all over the place. And they're a dime a dozen. They've been around for a million years. And there's nothing really special about it because there's 1,000 of them. And they're just, you see them every day. Jedi are just, whatever. There's nothing special to me. There's like, oh, that like took the mystique out of being a Jedi. It's like, oh, you can just sign up to be a Jedi kind of when you're a kid. I don't know. Midi-chlorians, that's all bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
But like, if Jedi are supposed, like, that's the thing. Like, if Jedi are supposed to be like so powerful and so in tune with the Force or whatever the hell, how do they not be like, yo, this dude's a Sith Lord, like immediately? Right. And it's frustrating to me. Like, what is going on? To the point where you have to reframe your whole thoughts on the Jedi to be like, oh, I really like that they reference that in The Last Jedi, where Luke is like, the Jedi became so arrogant that they just let this Sith Lord rise to power and they didn't do anything about it. They just couldn't see it. They were so like into their own hubris. And that makes sense to me. So a show that's going to define that and kind of make that definitively canon, because I feel like people that don't like The Last Jedi, I feel like are people that are like, no, the Jedi are the good guys. Like, yo, they're not. They're not. They're not
Right.
the good guys in the prequels. They're just not. And
No,
they're kind
and
of trying to brainwash Luke in the original trilogy. When you think of it like that, that changes what they're telling Luke in the original trilogy. Like, yeah, you should go kill your dad. That's the way that you need. You should let your
Right.
friends die and go kill your dad. They're saying that to him. That's not what? Come on. What are you doing? Anyway, I'm excited to see to further showcase in a canon way that the Jedi fucked up here. The Jedi
they
screwed up in a big way.
the whole it goes back to the things can be two things. Like, yes, the Jedi are ultimately
Good point.
the like
From a
the
certain
protagonists, right? They're the protagonists. I don't have that on the drop board. Sorry. They're the protagonists of the whole thing, but that doesn't mean that Jedi in the past didn't have flaws. It didn't mean that everything went the way it should have, because they really screwed up for a good bit there. Now, as someone who's read a bunch of the High Republic stuff, which I do highly recommend to anybody who's listening, very, very solid setup and a very solid base for a nice little era of Star Wars that hasn't been looked into too much. But they screwed up a lot. Yeah. And you see a very different face of them, including dogma shifts over the time period from what we're seeing in the High Republic.
I mean, there would have to be.
Yeah.
There would have to be.
So, and that
I'm excited to
the novels
see
in that are 200 years before. So this is set kind of late in the period. So by then, I believe a couple other things have come out in the High Republic series. I think they're jumping forward towards this time period next. Phase 1 of the High Republic is complete. They're moving into phase 2. I don't know how that will line up with the release of this as far as time periods go, but I think I think it'll be a very unique look at things, and I think Star Wars is at its best when it's not going into the Skywalker stuff. Everything that we've seen, including, as you mentioned before, Solo, which every time I watch it, and I think you said this to me the other day.
Yeah.
Every time it gets watched, it's better. It's more enjoyable.
Yep.
And I don't know. Yeah. Again, it's a rant for a couple bullets down, but like they really, when they have no expectations or no preconceived notions of a character, similar to Din Djarin and Grogu.
Yeah.
They do great with it. Or Rebels, same deal.
Yeah.
It's, you have this huge galaxy, and we keep, as you mentioned, trying to plug these holes that don't need to be plugged.
Yeah.
Give us the Tales of the Jedi that we had been rumored that we talked about. That's like 2,000 years before. Or give us, in the old comics. Right. In the old comics, you had the Legacy series, which was like I think it was like a couple 100 years or 100 years after. And it was a descendant of the Skywalkers, but it also was something completely new and novel and not an era that you'd seen. Or in the case of like the stuff I've talked about numerous times that I love, Rogue Squadron. Give us the fighter pilot stuff. Give us the Andor, the guys on the ground that aren't like Rogue One was phenomenal. There wasn't a single Jedi in the damn thing.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to play with the Force to make something good in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. See, I'm of two minds about it because like the Skywalker thing is so in my heart that I'll take that shit anytime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're finding a way to give me more Skywalker stuff. I am there. I am in, and I love it. But at the same time, I want you to be moving forward. I'm somebody. A lot of people hate the sequels. I'm almost really 50-50 on what I like about them and what I don't like about them, which is more than the prequels. Like they have a better batting average than the prequels for me. So, and I regardless of how the story ended up, I really love the character of Rey. I think she was a great character. I think they lost her along the way, or what maybe should have happened, or what I would have preferred to happen, whatever. That's like a constant battle with Star Wars expectations we talk about all the time. But And I know she took the name, spoiler, I know she took the name Skywalker at the end of Rise of Skywalker, but she's still not really a part of that family or lineage in a
Right.
way that I want more of that. Like if there was more Rey stuff, it's not like it's going to be like connected necessarily to like Luke and Vader and Leia and Solo and stuff like that, you know, just like take those characters and move them forward, or do something even without Rey. Like give me something after the sequel trilogy. Like just keep moving forward. I want that too.
Yeah.
I want new stuff. I don't necessarily. I like the reference stuff. I like the legacy. Here's something that you know. Like that's fun, but I also want moving forward into new territory and breaking ground, which
Well, and yeah, at this point,
I don't know how interested how interested they are in that right now. It doesn't seem like
right.
they really are.
At this point, after the current phase, you don't have the ties to the original trilogy. You can go in your own direction. And
Right.
I don't know if it's almost like Lucasfilm is afraid to do that. Like their cash cow, they want to stick with their cash cow instead of making a new cash cow.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at Marvel. Even look across the Disney spectrum to Marvel, where I think they realize that they can't just make another 10 years of the same movie leading up to Endgame again. They're trying a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing that on the Star Wars side of the house. Like, we have a lot of it proposed, but who knows what's going to come to fruition and what's actually going to be different.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think sequel trilogy, again, I like a lot of it. There's definitely parts that I don't like at all. I think it suffers from leaning too much into. I get that they did it with. I get why they did it with Force Awakens. You had to like meld the two things, right? Like I totally understand. I love Force Awakens. I really like that movie, and I get that it's kind of like a copy of the first one. Like I get that, and I'm fine with it because you had to introduce these new characters, had to like catch up with the old ones, and then move forward, right? And then Last Jedi, I think, does a very good job of moving things forward. And then I think Rise of Skywalker does a whole lot of like, here's a whole lot of nostalgia that we already showed you in Force Awakens. And like, I feel like they just really needed to go somewhere we hadn't been before. And that's not what they did with Rise of Skywalker. So that like really kind of like wrecked it for me.
Yeah. It's right in the tagline where no man has gone before. Oh, wait, wrong.
Maybe they should have that tagline, but they don't.
And don't worry for any nerds that are on the podcast that just cringed at that. If you'd have seen the shit-eating grin I had on Twitch, it's very different.
Yeah, we know it's not that. We know. We're just joking. We're joking. I mean, you can still leave us a comment or whatever. But anyway, okay, that was a tangent. Sorry. Moving on. Grammar Rodeo. What's Grammar Rodeo? Is that a Star Wars thing? Yeah, it actually is. Is it an official Star Wars thing? No. It's a working title of something that hasn't actually been titled yet. Remember how a week or two ago we talked about how John Watts walked away from the Fantastic Four reboot? Guess why?
Mm-hmm.
He's doing a Star Wars thing. He is currently developing a currently untitled series for Disney+. There's no story details, but they are currently looking to cast 4 11 to 12-year-old kids for a coming-of-age story like Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment and the movies he made in like the 1980s, like E.T., or I guess, I don't know, Goonies. Maybe. Is that an Amblin thing?
I don't know.
It should be if it's not. I think it might be.
It was definitely a formative 80s kids movie, so I'm with you on that, the reference.
Exactly. So we don't know anything about this. We don't know if it's sequel era, original trilogy era, prequel era, or somewhere in between, somewhere before, somewhere after.
It's going to be Broom Kid from Last Jedi.
Dude, why isn't it Broom? It should be. It should be. Rise of Skywalker should have been Broom Kid from Last Jedi. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, this is cool. I feel like it's a cool.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good move. I think it's a good move to have something that feels maybe a little bit different. John Watts, I feel like, did a very good job of making Spider-Man feel like a John Hughes movie, or Spider-Man Homecoming, at least that first one. So I think that'd be a cool feel for like younger kids, and also a way to get younger kids into Star Wars if they're not already. Like, I don't think it's hard to get a younger kid into Star Wars as it is, but maybe giving them somebody that's on their level more relatable than 30-year-old Han Solo or whatever at the same time. So I think that's cool. No other information about it, but it's cool. Now, we mentioned this already. We're going to talk about Solo for a second. Kathleen Kennedy, what's her title at Lucasfilm? President of Lucasfilm? She's the director or something? Whatever. She had this to say. They referenced the movie Solo coming out and kind of being the last theatrical... No, I guess Rise of Skywalker was, but they were planning on doing all these like Star Wars stories. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Solo, a Star Wars story. They were going to make a Boba Fett movie. The Boba Fett show was going to be a movie. Obi Wan was going to be a movie, and no one went to see Solo, so they canceled that plan. This was her quote regarding Solo and the recasting of legacy characters with new actors, which is what some people's big complaint about Solo is that it's not Harrison Ford. Well, guess what? Harrison Ford is like 80 years old. He's not going to play a young Han Solo. Maybe that means we don't make a movie called Solo. Maybe that's something. But they already did, and it's with Alden Ehrenreich. But anyway, her quote about it was this. There should be moments along the way when you learn things. Now, it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that, meaning recasting legacy characters with new actors. It should be abundantly clear that we can't do that.
Hold on one second here, Mike.
Say it. Preach it.
Isn't there something coming out on Friday? I think there's something coming out on Friday.
Kenobi.
Oh,
you telling me
he's a recast, isn't he?
Wait, no, based on this quote, it's got to be Alec Guinness that is playing Obi Wan Kenobi in the show, right?
Right. Oh wait, no.
Wait,
that's not going to work.
Did Alec Guinness play him in the prequels? They just de-aged Alec Guinness to play Obi Wan in the prequels.
Yeah, the technology was there back then. Yeah, totally.
And wait, who played? They got the same guy to play Anakin Skywalker in Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah.
That played him at the end of Return of the Jedi? Same guy?
Yeah, and the same guy that did it in episode 2 and 3.
The same guy that did it in episode 2 and 3, right?
Totally all the same actor.
They got the same guy that played Uncle Owen and the same woman that played Aunt Beru, right?
Well, they did actually get the same guy that played Uncle Owen. For one... No, yeah. Yep, I get you there. Yeah, I was like, but Joel Edgerton did actually play him. Yeah. Fun fact.
Is Mark Hamill doing motion capture for the young child version of Luke Skywalker that we see in the trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi?
He's got to be, by this quote.
Yeah. I don't know. They've done it so many times.
Jeremy Bullock is not the same as Tamara Morrison.
Yes. Boba Fett. Yes.
So...
Yes.
Past being precedent, I think Kathleen Kennedy's full of shit here.
Yeah. I have been on an episode of this I don't remember what we were talking about, but I feel like I was a defender. I have been a defender of Kathleen Kennedy in the past. This quote is bullshit. This is a bullshit quote from her. That's the lesson that you learned from Solo? That's the lesson? Not that you shouldn't have fired the people that had made 80% of the movie after they made 80% of it and hired a new guy to come in to remake that movie?
Yeah.
That's not the lesson you learned? Maybe you should stick with the people that you hired? You didn't learn that you shouldn't put it out 4 months after the most divisive Star Wars movie of all time has come out? Like, come on. That you shouldn't start promoting it until 2 months before it comes out? Like, these are all the lessons that you should have learned, Kathleen Kennedy. That you shouldn't lean so heavily on nostalgia, and you should maybe try to give people something new and different and fun that they can connect to.
Yeah,
Come on. It's not like it was other lessons.
Right. It wasn't put out like a month after Infinity War or anything either.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So
I think it was weeks after Infinity War. It wasn't even a month. It was like in the same month as Infinity War came out.
It was like mid-May and Infinity War dropped end of April, if I remember right. So it was like right after. And you had Last Jedi, Deadpool, Infinity War, and that all right there.
Yeah. Insane. Like that. How is that the lesson that you learned? One, okay. So because of this quote and because of one of my favorite podcasts, Star Wars Minute, is currently doing Solo right now. They watch every Star Wars movie, and every episode of the podcast they're talking about 1 minute of the movie. So it takes a long time, obviously, to get through a movie. but it's very good, and they're doing Solo right now. So those two things combined made me rewatch Solo recently, and god damn it, Steve, I loved it. Loved it. It's like the third or fourth time that I've seen it.
Yep.
But it was like I was watching it for the first time, and I was like, this is great. This is so fun. It's so cool. Like, yeah, there's like some moments that aren't perfect. Whatever. I don't care. It's great. I think Alden Ehrenreich was a great Han Solo. I think he's perfectly fine as Han Solo. I think he did a very good job.
I think people I think people were looking for, and this is completely a preconceived notion, I think people were looking for Han Solo after, like, they're remembering Han Solo from Return of the Jedi when they needed to be saying Alden Ehrenreich as before Han Solo that we met in A New Hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we need hokey religions or ancient religions and hokey tricks are no match for a blaster your side Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's, yeah, I like I said earlier, and you said, like, it's a good movie. It's fun.
It's so fun.
But I
so
think
cool.
It's the same. You also fall into the same thing that a lot of people fell into with Multiverse of Madness. You get ideas in your head, and you have preconceived notions. And I think, I think what I had learned, like, going into Multiverse of Madness, even having seen some trailers, with no thoughts like I was watching WandaVision with the Mephisto stuff, or like any sort of preconceived notion of what I'm going to see. It really changes your perspective on things. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and I went into Solo when I saw it the first time in the theater because I care about all this nerd news stuff. Like, I knew that Phil Lord and Chris Miller got fired after they made 80% of the movie and they brought in Ron Howard to reshoot the entire thing. I knew that people were mad that they were recasting Han Solo. Like, I knew all this stuff. So I went in looking for the cracks. And now, however many years later, I watch it for the third or fourth time at home and I'm like, this is great. I'm not thinking about any of that. Like, I still know that stuff. I'm just kind of taking it in for a movie as it is. And I heard one of the guests on Star Wars Minute talking about Solo said this the other day. How much crazier or worse or different or whatever could the Lord and Miller version of this movie have been for them to get fired from the movie? Like, they literally had made 80% of the movie. These are the guys that made Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah.
What were they possibly doing that got them fired from Solo? Like, how different could it have been from what we got? And how much better would it have been? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm saying I love the movie as it is. I think it's great. But, like, being someone that's a fan of their filmmaking, like, they made, like, Mitchells and the Machines, which is another great animated movie.
The Lego movie.
Talented. Yeah, the Lego movie. Yeah, they are talented filmmakers and writers, super creative guys. How could it have been that bad that they got fired? There's no way. There's no way. It must have been like Mitchells vs. Machines or Lego Movie or Spider-Verse. Like, it must have just been like pushing more boundaries or just been more experimental or something that it got scared, that Lucasfilm got scared.
Yeah.
Right?
Just gone in a direction they didn't want to go and didn't. Like, Lord and Miller don't seem like ones that are going to back down from where they want to take something.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly. So they're like, yeah, okay, never mind. Fine.
That being said, the follow-up quote to that involved someone who doesn't particularly want a lot of control over what people are saying in his movies either.
What was that?
That the next Star Wars film we're going to see is Taika Waititi.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to move on to that. I just want to say, just clarifying, I just think that of all the mistakes and everything that went around Solo, to have this quote, to basically blaming the failure of Solo in the box office on Alden Ehrenreich as an actor is shitty. And that's
100%.
Really shitty thing for her to say, especially when Donald Glover is also as Lando in that movie. I think is incredible.
Yeah.
And some people he's doing like an impression of Billy D. Williams. Fine. I don't know. I think it's great. I love it.
Billy D. Williams was doing an impression of whatever the hell he thought Lando was going to be. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, you're shitting on two great actors doing their best to make your movie, and you're blaming the failure on them alone when Lucasfilm did a lot of bullshit to cause that movie harm. Kathleen Kennedy, that's a shitty thing to say. Shitty thing to say.
Concur.
Okay. Anyway, yes. Next movie we're going to see, Taika Waititi's Star Wars film, most likely the next one that we see. And if that's not exciting enough, something that we thought might have been completely canceled, Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron film is now still on the schedule, but just quote-unquote further off, is what she said. So that's great. She also brushed away a question about the rumored Kevin Feige Star Wars film. A couple years ago, they said Kevin Feige was going to produce a Star Wars film, so much so that it was rumored that he was going to leave Marvel to work for Lucasfilm and replace Kathleen, like the rumor that Kathleen Kennedy is going to retire after Skywalker comes out, and that Kevin Feige is going to replace her at Lucasfilm. Clearly, that's not the case. And but he was going to do a movie. She brushed that question off, kind of like, he's busy. And then also said the same thing about Rian Johnson's previously announced Star Wars trilogy. This is like another instance of Lucasfilm seeming like just being reactionary or scared of their audience, basically. I liked a lot of this article. A lot of this article read to me as Lucasfilm still is listening to the loud, angry fanboys on Reddit or whatever that are still complaining about Last Jedi, still complaining about Solo, still complaining about whatever else, and they're trying to appease those loud people. They're not listening to the, I feel like, majority of fans that like Last Jedi. Like, maybe they don't love it, but they like it. They thought it was fine. Or they like to love Solo or something like that. You know, maybe they don't think it's the best Star Wars movie, but like, yeah, it was good. Like what I'm just saying. Alden Ehrenreich was fine.
Yeah. I think I found more people with fun movie. Yeah, I think I found more people with trouble with Rise of Skywalker than Last Jedi.
Yeah, but those people are, you know, rational people that aren't just like mad rage tweeting about it all the time or whatever. I feel like they're paying attention to the loud crowd that is complaining about stuff, which is, you know, that's how your Snyder cuts get made or whatever else. At the same time, you listen to the loud complaining people. Anyway, so people like that forget that at some point, Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy had such a wonderful time working with Rian Johnson on Last Jedi. That movie was on time, under budget. There was no production problems at all. They loved working with him so much they gave him his own trilogy. They announced a trilogy that was going to be written by Rian Johnson based on his successful filmmaking and shepherding of The Last Jedi. And ever since The Last Jedi came out and pissed off half of the Star Wars fan base, we haven't heard anything about that, really. And she basically said, oh, he's busy with Knives Out sequels and his Netflix deal and all this other stuff. And she didn't say it was canceled, but it seemed like she was trying real hard. Yeah, she's trying real hard to not say that it was canceled. So I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. But I am excited about a Taika Waititi Star Wars film, as we've talked about previously in this podcast. And I'm
which we still have no idea what it's going to be.
Zero idea.
So,
which is even more exciting because he seems like the kind of guy that wants to do something new.
Yeah.
Either he's got a really specific idea of a really specific hole that he wants to plug, or he's like, nah, I want to do something completely new and complete. It's in the universe. It's going to feel like Star Wars, but it's going to be all new characters. And I really hope that that's what it is.
I'd agree. Yeah. Things I didn't realize that are tying this podcast completely together. Kathleen Kennedy co-founded Amblin.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I forgot about that. E.T.
Indiana Jones movies and E.T. and stuff.
American Tail, Gremlins, Goonies. Like she was EP on a bunch of those. Hook, Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I mean, she is like, without a doubt, she's one of the greatest film producers in history.
Yeah.
Hands down. But it doesn't mean that she can't say a shitty thing about her own company's handling of promotion of a movie.
Right. Or, you know, I mean,
last week.
She's been at the top of her game since 1982. Like, there's always a chance that, you know, the modern movie landscape could use a shift.
Yeah, that's very true.
And like you said, I've been a staunch supporter of her for years, but some recent decisions and statements have caused me to rethink some thoughts.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like old school like Warner Brothers reactionary mentality.
Yes,
Like, oh,
very
people don't
much
like
so.
Batman versus Superman. We need to completely shift. Or, oh, you don't like Suicide Squad. We need to completely shift something. It's like, yo, just stick by your guns. Like, you liked Ryan Johnson's Last Jedi. Like, stick to your guns and let Colin Trevorrow make his movie.
Yeah.
Like,
And
just don't.
and
You
Ryan
hired,
Johnson's Last Jedi made a boatload of money.
yeah, yeah, I know, and people love it.
Yeah.
I'm like mixed on it. Last Jedi is like got really high highs and really low lows for me, and so it's hard for me. I know you love it, whole cloth.
Yeah, not unequivocally, but yeah.
Yeah, but,
I probably would have loved it more if any of those threads that I actually liked had gotten resolved.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
I think Rise of Skywalker taints my thoughts on Last Jedi.
Yes, 100%, 100%. It taints my thoughts on both the previous two films, which is a shame because really what you want when you have Force Awakens and Last Jedi, two films that do sequelize each other. Like I am not somebody that thinks Last Jedi twisted what was set up in Force Awakens. I think it takes some of those lines very well and sees them through.
Yeah.
I think it maybe bungles the Finn storyline for me. But Rise of Skywalker is a movie that...
So it bungles the Finn storyline, and then Rise of Skywalker bungles it even farther.
100%. Rise of Skywalker is a movie that I think should have, in a perfect world, should have lifted both of the previous films and tied everything together, and the faults in 7 and 8 would have been solved or fixed or whatever, or elevated in some way by 9, and that really did not happen whatsoever. But anyway, hey, we made it through. We talked about Star Wars. We definitely did some tangents. We definitely took too long, but here we are at the end, and we're going to talk about some comic books. We're going to breeze through these things because this episode's getting long. DC has announced a series called Batman One Bad Day, and this is not a normal comic book series. This is a series of one-shot 64-page comics or graphic novels featuring Batman's Rogues Gallery. Each one-shot is going to be done by a different creative team. Leading the pack, very exciting for me, we got Tom King and Mitch Gerads, the creative team behind Mr. Miracle. They also worked together on Strange Adventures with Doc Shaner et al. These two work together incredibly well, and I'm very excited. They are reteaming for a Batman One Bad Day, The Riddler. We got a Two-Face focused story by Mariko Tamaki, Javier Fernandez, and Jordi Belair. We got The Penguin One Bad Day by John Ridley, Giuseppe Camunculi, Cam Smith, and Arif Pianto. We got Mr. Freeze by Jerry Duggan, Matteo Scalera, and Dave Stewart. We got Catwoman by G. Willow Wilson and Jamie McKelvey. We got Bane by Joshua Williamson is writing Bane with Howard Porter and Tomeo Mori. Clayface with Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, Zeramanico, and Romalo Fajardo Jr. Man, I'm bad at that name. Sorry. And we got Ra's al Ghul from current DC star Tom Taylor and artist Ivan Reis. So I'm very excited about literally all of these. Those are some incredible creative teams on some awesome characters. Noticeably missing from this lineup, the Joker. Are we jokered out? I think we might be jokered out, and that's possibly why.
Could be. I mean, he's been around the block a time or two.
He's also got his own solo series currently.
Oh, really?
DC, so yeah, or he
That'll
had.
do it.
I mean, it might have been a miniseries that wrapped up. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but I kind of think it's wise for them to not include a Joker one. I don't know. Personally, I'm a little jokered out, but
Right.
A Riddler series from Tom King and Mitch Gerads, totally down for. A Two-Face thing. I love Two-Face so much. I feel like he's someone that doesn't necessarily get his due as a villain too often. Kind of hard to write for him, I guess, but like Catwoman from G. Willow Wilson, Bane from Joshua Williamson, like even something about Clayface. I feel like Clayface is a villain that isn't normally taken even really that seriously, but when done well, it kind of emphasizes like a tragic monster kind of backstory. Like, it's really great. So I think this is cool.
Mr. Freeze, you get the Jerry Duggan treatment, who has been a Marvel stalwart for years.
Yeah.
And this is kind of his first or second foray into DC. So,
I think
an
he's done
interesting take on
he's
that.
done some work there for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm excited, and you get him in like you get him in a one-shot thing. Like
Right.
you don't have to like collect a year's worth of stuff. Like 64 pages graphic novel, bam, done. Love it, start to finish. And Tom Taylor's been crushing it at DC lately, so much so that he's been nominated for a few Eisner Awards. That's right, this week the Eisner nominees have been announced. Eisners are awards given to comic books and comic book creators. Leading the awards is James Tynion IV.
Go figure.
Leads the creator noms with 5. He gets 5 different creator nominations, 2 in the same category for Best Continuing Series, which is a huge one, for Department of Truth and Multiverse Report favorite, Something is Killing the Children. Yeah. We also got
things we're not surprised about. James Tynion is nominated for a lot of awards for what he's doing.
Yeah, I know. DC and Image won. They are the 2 publishers that are leading the amount of awards. I think DC had like 15 noms altogether. And
wow.
Image had like 14. Like, great going, guys. Good job. I mean, I will say all day long, I think DC is doing some of its best work ever currently.
Yeah.
So, plenty to dive into. DC's current Nightwing run from Tom Taylor and Bruno Renato is nominated for a lot of things, including Best Single Issue, Best Continuing Series, Best Penciler Inker, Best Cover Artist, and Best Lettering. So a lot going on there, and that's a series that I love with my whole heart. Some other nominated Multiverse Report favorite titles include The Many Deaths of Layla Starr from Ram V, Human Target from Tom King, Immortal Hulk, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and some of our favorite creators are also nominated, including Ed Brubaker, Kelly Sue DeConnick, Ram V, Jen Bartel, Alex Ross, and Daniel Warren Johnson for his short story in Superman Red and Blue #5, which is my favorite Superman story of all time. Made me cry when I read it, so much so that I bought a copy for Steve and made him read it.
And made me cry. Thanks.
Yeah. So I am really hoping that the short story one goes to Daniel Warren Johnson for his work on that story, because I love it so much. So that's all the comic book news we have. We're not going to do the list of what's coming out this week because it's been a long episode, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to skip over that and go to our one singular one-shot for the week. Again, it's been a long episode. Netflix announced their Geek Week. That's something they've been doing promotionally the last couple years. It's going to be from June 6th to the 10th. They're going to be dropping a lot of like news and trailers and first looks on a lot of their genre shows. They released a trailer for their Geek Week in general, which featured new footage from shows like Umbrella Academy, Stranger Things Season 4, and what I am the most excited about, The Sandman. We got some images. We got some footage from The Sandman. You can watch that trailer on YouTube right now. We got a look at, I don't remember the actor's name, but the main character that's playing Dream or Morpheus, whatever you want to call him. He looks great. We got, I'm blanking on the actress's name. I didn't write her down. She's playing Lucifer. Captain Phasma.
Yeah, Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie is playing Lucifer. She looks great. Very excited about that. We also, since they released the teaser for Geek Week, we got the full trailer for Umbrella Academy Season 3. Mm-hmm. Something that looks very cool, looks very different from the books. The show in general, oftentimes very different from the books. But
was I seeing stills, or was there a shot of Charles Dance as Burgess too?
Well, we got a very short teaser of Charles Dance as Burgess, months ago. I think we got
that might have been what I was thinking of.
Minute-long teaser. Yeah, I don't know if he was in this. We did get some still shots were showing up online, and we got some footage, what seemed like from the first, some footage of Dream from like the first episode, maybe right after he gets out, and he's like,
right,
transporting himself back into the dream world, and then he ends up going to see Lucifer to retrieve an object that is in their possession from him. So I don't want to spoil anything. I know you've listened to the audio drama. You hadn't read the book, but so you know what I'm talking about. But Very excited. And still no date on the Sandman other than it's coming out soon, possibly before the end of the year.
Right.
Which I don't know about, but I really hope so. Very, very, very excited about that. Steve, I think we did it. I think we're
We
done.
did.
It's been
I
an
think
hour
we made
and a
it.
half.
It's 1 hour and gonna be a half by the time I'm done talking. So
An hour and a half, and we also did a whole nother interview episode with Elise Russell. Again, go listen to that if you haven't yet. We talk about comics, we talk about writing, we talk about stuff that she's got on her plate, which is all very wonderful. So please go listen to that after you've finished listening to this incredibly long episode.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to find her stuff, check out the show notes for any of the podcasts or videos that we did with her. For our stuff, check out the multiverseport.com, multiverseport@gmail.com. Anywhere you can find our pods, please like, review, subscribe, follow us. Ring the bell to make sure you get the notifications when we publish a video. Other than that, Mike, anywhere or any place you'd like to be found or plugged or anything like that?
You can find me at Carol's Kid with a K, Carol's Kid on Twitter and on Instagram if you want to follow me. And I guess that's it. You can follow Steve at Wattiti's Dutch Art.
Dutch Hart. So
Dutch Hart on
Hart,
Twitter and Instagram.
Hart
as
spelled
well.
like Jason Hart from Syracuse basketball. You can also find
There you go.
my writing over at noonsmagician.com or my podcast on that Twitter feed for Syracuse sports.
Yeah, if you're interested in listening to me talk about songs that I've written, you can listen to my other podcast, Audio Capsule, which is currently on its third season right now. So you can check that out as well. And I got a comic book coming out in the next couple months called The Amazing Shakes. You can check that out on my Twitter or wherever. I don't know. So much going on. Next week, we will be talking about Obi Wan. The 2 first episodes of Obi Wan Kenobi will be out by the time we do this next week. We'll be diving deep into those. Unless for some reason we feel like we need to do a separate episode.
Right.
Hopefully we don't, because I got a lot on my plate recently. I got to keep this shit together as much as possible.
Fair enough.
So that's all we got, unless you got something else, Steve. Anything else from you?
No, golden hair.
All right, that's what I got. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, we will see you in the multiverse.